7 secret fears men over 50 feel when they really like you. Whether you're a man or a woman, I suspect you'll be able to appreciate this conversation. And while I typically work with women, I also do occasionally work with men. And one of the first questions I ask someone when I'm evaluating them as a client or working with them as a client is, what is your greatest fears or fear when you enter into a relationship? Let me repeat that. What's your greatest fear or fears when entering into a relationship? See, fears are a block to love. Now, we have to recognize that, this is, it's interesting because this might be a great first date question to ask someone, but I know a lot of people will tell you, never go that deep, never go that vulnerable. But I think when we reverse engineer the dating process, you see, the dating process is oftentimes hyper focused on romance. It's hyper focused on having a good time. And I wonder, what if we reversed engineer it? What if we work backwards? And we start with the challenging things in the very beginning, because if two people are attracted to each other enough, they might be willing to explore this. Now, a man might fear, okay, I'm going to give you 7 fears. They might fear one of them. They might fear all of them. This might show up at a first date, or it might show up later in the dating process. So what is dating? See, again, we oftentimes hyper focus on romance and having a good time for a variety of different reasons, instead of the real understanding the purpose of what is dating. Dating is a vetting process. Dating is a fact-finding mission to determine if two people should explore a relationship together. Now, I say should explore a relationship together, but from my world, I guess where I struggle sometimes as a coach is I'm here to encourage a long-term mating strategy, And sadly, most human beings have a short-term mating strategy. And I think if you look back in history, up until about 100 or maybe 60 plus years ago, most people dated with the purpose of getting married. There was an intentionality with the dating process, and that has certainly shifted in the last 60 years. And that's because predominantly hooking up, situationships, part-time relationships, and casual relationships make up the majority of circumstances in the dating marketplace today. Did you hear that? Hooking up, situationships, part-time relationships. Did I mention friends with benefits? I forgot to include that. Friends with benefits, part-time relationships, and casual relationships that make up the majority of relationships today. See, if you're like me, you want a serious relationship. You're looking for something beyond the surface. You want a potential life partner. And if you're approaching it from this premise, then it's really important to focus on compatibility as well as that attraction piece. See, attraction gets us in the door. There's no doubt about it. But let me ask you something. If you've been out in the dating marketplace for a while and you've had, let's just say, 5 to 10 relationships that lasted 3 months or longer, or let me say experiences, okay? We won't call them relationships, but if you had experiences that lasted 3 months or longer, the average person's had somewhere between 5 and 10 of those. And if you look back to the root, attraction entered. God, I'm spitting. Attraction is what got you in the door. But shared values, shared vision, lifestyle compatibility, and most importantly, emotional capacity and emotional maturity is what kept relationships together, or what keeps relationships together. And for them actually to thrive, because there's a lot of people in a serious relationship. There are a lot of people that are married, but they're not necessarily happy. So in a moment, I'm going to share with you these 7 things. But before I do, I want to invite everyone to explore something. And that is the term self-awareness, and why this is so critically important in this conversation. Because when you're looking at a man or woman's fears, it's important to be introspective and look internally. at maybe your own fears. Being self-aware is like being the actor on stage, the director that's kind of directing the play, if you will, being the audience member witnessing everything, and the other actors in the play are just simply a mirror of yourself. Believe it or not, it's a reflection of yourself. When you can get to this kind of understanding, this is my interpretation of self-awareness. Self-awareness is recognizing one's fears and insecurities and negative patterns and limiting beliefs and how our actions affect other people. And our capacity to shift to love provides someone a level of contentment or joy in their life. And so I really want you to sit with what I just said and invite yourself to look at your greatest fears when entering in a relationship. Because whether you like it or not, whether you're a man or woman, we all experience some level of fear. You know, it's interesting. Folks, I used to be a man who chased sex. I'm going to raise my hand. I was the man before I got married and after my divorce, I chased sex. In other words, I chased physical attraction for the purpose of sex. And when I chase sex, by the way, I know you ladies love the idea. Men love the hunt. Men love the chase. Men are supposed to be pursuers. Men are the leaders of the relationship. Ask yourself, when you're meeting a total stranger, what is their motivation? Like, do you really honestly believe when you meet a stranger, you're so altruistic and motivated by, again, motivated by an altruistic space? And I was a very broken man after my divorce. And you have to be careful for the men who chase sex, because it can be so enticing, because they can flatter you and be charming in such a way. But that doesn't mean that they have the capacity to be in a relationship with you. That doesn't even mean that they want a full-term commitment just because they like you. But when a man isn't chasing sex and when he isn't broken seeking a therapist, oh, wait, did you hear that? He isn't broken seeking a therapist. Do you realize that I would venture to say 1/3 of people out in the dating marketplace, the people that they're communicating with are oftentimes too broke. And when I say broken, we're all human beings with flaws. So let me be clear about that. But honestly, dating today has become a replacement for therapy. Yep. Remember I said it's a vetting process and a fact finding, but you know what it really is? The purpose these days for a lot of people, it's therapy. In other words, they're hurting on the inside. They lack that self-love I talk about in my book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help with Spiritual Work. There's a link below to get a copy of my book. And I'm guilty of this. But, I'm guilty of talking to someone because I'm lonely, connecting with someone just because it's nice to connect with another human being. And just remember, I believe most human beings are good people. Down in their core, they're good people. We are flawed. There's no doubt about it. We are flawed because that's what being human is all about. But I think most people are good people. So in a moment, I'm going to talk about these 7 things, but I want to bring to your attention men who are only seeking a part-time relationship. They might not exhibit these fears. These men have a short-term mating strategy, and men with a broken heart oftentimes are very self-protective against these fears. I need to repeat this. There are plenty of men only seeking a part-time relationship, and these fears might not apply because these men have a short-term mating strategy, and men with a broken heart often self-protect against these fears. This is why when I created my private coaching, it's all about helping people, men and women alike, to become discerning, to ask those radically honest questions based on your personality. So if you need support, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Now, here's the thing about men. We men are expected to be confident and stoic. And the rhetoric out there is so based on Prince Charming that we must be perfect in the dating realm. But these fears I'm about to share with you aren't excuses. They're simply here to point out what men go through because men are human. Now, what's interesting, when I wrote down these 7 things, I actually typed into ChatGPT this very same post, or I typed in, what are men's greatest fears when they really like you? And it was so fascinating because almost everything I pointed out here showed up, except for one. So I thought that was kind of fun. So if you're curious, just type that into ChatGPT and you can get the CliffNote version. Actually, ChatGPT came up with 10 or 11 things. These are just 7 that I'm sharing today. So the first one, I'm not good enough. That's, I think, a core wound for every human being on the planet is I'm not good enough. Hey, it's 11:11. I think it's the #1 emotional health wound, and dating and relationships can trigger this like nobody's business. Many of you watched a recent video where I connected with a woman online. We spoke on the phone for 6 days, quite a bit, and then we met for a first date. And I got to tell you, we were clicking on, we were checking each other's boxes. It was so wonderful. It was kind of fun. We were actually vibing very well together. By the way, there happened to be a little bit of distance. It was a 4-hour drive. And I would say my fear going into it was that she wasn't going to be attracted to me. And I don't, well, and by the way, I had a fear that whether or not I would be attracted to her. So let me be clear. I think, actually, let me just say this. My fear was more I wouldn't be attracted to her, but I had a tiny fear that she wouldn't be attracted to me because you know, until you meet someone, you don't know. And sadly, at the end of our date, if you will, she basically was very forthright and said she didn't have chemistry for me. Now, chemistry is this elusive thing. It's an unpredictable thing. It's a fickle thing. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Traction is different than chemistry. I think chemistry is a biological connection. Well, actually, no, I should retract that. I think chemistry is oftentimes confused for something known as the imago or love attachment style. If you're not familiar with this book, Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix or Wired for Love by Dr. Stan Tatkin, sometimes chemistry is an insecure or unhealthy connection or to another human being, or the rejection of that unhealthy connection to another human being. But why I'm sharing this story is after she said she didn't have chemistry with me, it was like, and by the way, I don't fault her for it. She was being honest. I appreciate the vulnerability, the authenticity, the transparency. But there was a dagger to my ego, and it triggers my not good enough wounds. And let me tell you something. This has happened before, and I've rejected women before too. And then that rejection, we can feel not good enough. And I was bullied in school. And my mom habitually told me I'm not good enough. So this is core stuff that came up for me in this experience. And I would be lying if I didn't say, if I go on another date, that wound doesn't exist. That fear doesn't exist. And I know many of you ladies and gentlemen out there who are watching this can relate to this core wound. And as I said earlier, we men are supposed to be confident and stoic and so evolved that we're supposed to be Prince Charming. We're supposed to climb to the highest room of the tallest tower. Men are scared too. It's not an excuse. It's just a reality. Number 2, competition. You know, there's this now with the advent of dating apps, you know, there's this competitiveness that's happened in the dating realm, whether you're a man or a woman. And you might like someone, but you might be a guy might be afraid that you might like another guy. Or, by the way, if you're a woman who likes a guy, you might be afraid that they like someone else. I think it's natural because of the what's the word I'm looking for? The overwhelming, connectivity through online dating, that competition can actually be a fear that can come up for people. And by the way, for some men, competition is a game. Ladies, be careful of this, because for some men, it might be that they want to get in your pants. They'll love bomb the heck of you because they want to know that they beat out the other guy, and they'll dump and dismiss you as soon as they've had a conquest. So this, for some men, competition fuels unhealthy behavior. And for other men, it can make them feel less than, coming back to that I'm not good enough. Now, one of the core fears almost all men feel, and I felt this happens when I like someone, this fear pops up, and that's the fear of commitment, the loss of freedom. The loss of freedom. And if you're familiar with love attachment style, avoidance fear enmeshment. So they fear commitment, they fear loss of freedom, but avoidance in particular feel overwhelmed if there's enmeshment, too much enmeshment. And this is one of the reasons why they keep space from an emotional perspective. Let's face it, when you live on your own, you are free to do whatever you want. Life is to some degree simpler because you get to make your own choices. But the minute you engage in relationship with someone, you're now responsible for someone else's feelings. And it can be a bit problematic in the sense that now the minute you engage with someone, you have to be responsible for someone else's feelings. And that can feel overwhelming to a lot of people. And also there's a fear that someone, there's the fear of missing out that comes with the fear of commitment. There, meaning there could be someone even better. I mean, these are all, again, these aren't excuses, but these are the experiences that can happen for a lot of men and women alike. Number 4. Not being good enough in bed. As men age, this title is Men Over 50. As we age, the equipment just doesn't work the way it does. It sucks. I'm just going to share with you. I'm a tail end baby boomer Gen Xer, and it sucks that I have to use a blue pill, and it doesn't always work. And God forbid I have a little alcohol, it doesn't work at all. And there's this also fear of not being good in bed, because these days the average person's had multiple sexual partners. And I've even talked in women's groups. I spoke to a woman who was married, but she mentioned that there was a different man in her life that was a better lover than her husband. And boy, did that was a dagger to my heart. Because we men want to feel like we're the best. And ladies, you want to feel the same way. These fears aren't just singular to men. These are fears for men and women alike. And so here's the problem with fears. We can keep them hidden, or we can open them up. And I believe when we have conversations like this, when we have conversations with people, as I said in the beginning of this broadcast, we actually shine a light to the shadow, and these fears don't feel so overwhelming. Number 5, rejection. I mean, kind of everything I've been talking about is the fear of rejection, the fear of not being wanted. But that's, some people just immediately go into the process fearing rejection. For some people, having that fear is a self-protection mechanism. If I already fear rejection, I can't get hurt. Some people detach by having a fear of rejection so they don't get hurt. It's a block to love, as I shared before. Number 6, the fear of screwing up. And I have this fear. I was in a relationship with a woman a decade and a half ago, and I totally screwed up Valentine's Day. She had something planned and I did zilch. And part of it was because I was stressed out about something that was happening in my life that day. And I just blew it. I in my heart of hearts, I wanted to do a good job, but I blew it. And she was visibly disappointed because she had planned something. And I recognize that there's this core wound. I'm not good enough. I screw up. I screw up. There are things I'm just not good at in life. There's just things I'm not good at in life. I'm not a great social planner. It's just not my strength. I have so many radical strengths in my life, but I have a fear of screwing up. It just, and so men, we fear disappointing you. And by the way, ladies, you feel this fear as well. This isn't singular to men, the fear of disappointing someone. And number 7, and I think this is the hardest fear for most men, just at a core level, is being perceived as weak. Being perceived as weak. I've shared publicly a lot of my fears, my insecurities. I've shared with many of you, I struggle with overseas travel. I struggle with it. I struggle when I'm in a new environment because men are supposed to be strong and we're supposed to be confident. We're supposed to be protectors. These scripts play in my head and it fucks with me because I recognize I get afraid. I get afraid. I just do. I'm working on overcoming it like anything. People go into training to become able to fight. You learn, techniques, and I'm using fighting as the example, but it's something that some people are naturally good at and some people need training like anything in life. And I don't do it enough to be, and I fear, it's just a weakness that I have within myself. And I fear being perceived as weak. And I know a lot of men have this core wound of feeling perceived as weak because there's just so much garbage and so much rhetoric that are saying you're not a real man if you're not strong. Do you realize these scripts screw with us, whether you're a man or a woman? These scripts screw with us. And it's interesting. I've been rejected by women for sharing that. But you know what? It's who I am. Why do I have to hide from all of these fears? I think when we embrace these fears, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Before it was 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 22, 22. Anyway, when we embrace these fears, when we shine a light on it, that's love. That's love at its core. And so I'm here to say that, look, we men aren't perfect. You women aren't perfect. But you know what? I think we all desire feeling a real connection. So the minute we like someone, all of a sudden, all of our fears begin to bubble up and surface. Because when you don't like someone, they're not, they still might be there, but they get triggered. The dating and relationship process triggers this stuff like nobody's business. And so just recognize that these exist. And you know what's gonna shine a light on this? If we have more richer conversations early in the process, instead of allowing chemistry to be the driver of the bus. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find my value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to get all the books I recommend listed below, and also to follow me on social media. Okay? All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $sign in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. Also, his nickname is Salty. It's one of my favorite pictures of him. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute, just to name a few, and also scholarships to coaching as well. Okay? So our goal is $50, okay? All right. Billy Holt is in the house. What does she have to say? Question: do you think people have sex for the sake of having sex? Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, well, to ejaculate, to have an orgasm. I mean, yeah, sex can sometimes just be for the sake of sex. I mean, it's not always about a deep emotional connection. So, yeah, I do believe that. It's interesting because I no longer chase sex. Doesn't mean I don't want it. But when I was chasing sex, my mating strategy was very short term. It was about, so when you hear men are hunters, men love the chase, just understand that that's getting their penis inside your vagina. That's not altruistic. So, so be careful of that narrative. And yes, that is the truth. Power Chi wants to say real talk. I appreciate that so much, Power Chi. I really do. Lynn just shared something with the group, all those scripts that run through someone's head. So let's talk about the scripts that run through our head. So I want you to think of scripts like code in a program. Do you know what code is? Code is lines of code, lines of code, lines of code, lines of code, lines of code. Okay. So our first line of code that's instinctual is our hunter, provider, protector, hunter, gatherer, nurturer. Those are the first layer of code that we all, have on an instinctual level. And then we have our biological code, that hormones and pheromones and testosterone and estrogen and serotonin are all part of this code, okay? And then we have our socialization. Boys are supposed to be a certain way and girls are supposed to be a certain way. This is where the code starts to differentiate between the way we operate between those three things are how we are supposed to be as boys and girls, men and women, okay, this code. And then certainly there's our cultural and religious code that plays into effect how we were raised culturally, how we were raised religiously, particularly when it came to our gender differentiations. And then there's our socioeconomic code, how we were raised, socioeconomic and education code as men and women. Did we come from money? Didn't we come from money? How does money play into it? How does education play it? All these scripts, all these codes. And then our physical appearance and our health is a code in all of this coding, these scripts. What isn't discussed in all, you see, a lot of dating advice is based on all these codes, all these scripts. But you know what this dating advice doesn't talk about? The childhood wounds, the imprinting we had as children, and our adult wounds from life experience. So there's the imprinting from childhood and the adult wounds that happen that override almost all of those other scripts. It's so like all dating advice are built around those original scripts I shared, and it doesn't even contemplate the most important part of the code. And that's our childhood wounds and our adult traumas. Let me repeat that, our childhood wounds and our adult traumas. Billy Holt even says coding. See, this is all playing in the background. So a lot of dating advice, and by the way, when the narrative is so hyper focused on men are supposed to be a certain way and women are supposed to be a certain way, it's fucked up shit because it goes against the most critical code of all. That's our childhood wounds and our adult traumas that are unhealed, If you're not familiar with the book, The Hoffman Process, I invite you to do a deep dive into this work because, as I said earlier, our fears and insecurities is what drives the bus to some degree. And if we don't identify these fears and insecurities for ourselves and we don't recognize fears and insecurities in someone else, this whole dating process is fitting square pegs in round holes all day long. Square peg in a round hole, a penis into a vagina. So when you understand your own psychology, when you've actually worked on healing your own wounds and let go of all these other scripts and focus on the most important script of all, is your emotional well-being. Because I'm going to tell you something, folks, whether you're a man or woman, most human beings are terrible at identifying. They're terrible at identifying their own wounds in life. And then to be able to express that fear to another human being so you can build genuine intimacy. And intimacy is about building, building trust with another person. Dating is a process of getting to the truth of another person, And we do such poor jobs because we don't even know how to get to the truth of ourselves, most of us. That's why when I talk about self-awareness, it's the ability to be the actor on stage, to be the director, to be the audience member, and also to be recognize that the other actors in your play are just mirrors of yourself. This is why I'm such a big proponent of doing personal development, self-help, and spiritual work, so we can overcome the scripting and all of the coding, all of this rhetoric that we've heard over and over again. Is this resonating with you? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. If it did resonate with you, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. Also, if you want to connect with me, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. And also links to follow me on other forms of social media. By the way, if anyone wants to join the Love Seat right now, I'm posting a link right now there. Okay, so we have a couple questions that popped up. Billy posed a question. Do you think standards should be a part of casual sexual relationships? If so, do most people know what those standards are? Well, I think it's important to know to me, standards are the operating procedure of this interaction. The operating procedure of this interaction. What are we doing here? Casual sexual relationships are really just another way of saying friends with benefits, maybe with the agreement of exclusivity or monogamy, maybe. No, actually, friends with benefits doesn't have exclusivity. It has monogamy until it changes. So here's the thing. Most people find themselves in casual relationships. A casual relationship is basically, when I find someone better, I'm going to replace you. And by the way, most folks find themselves in casual relationships. That's just my interpretation anyway. Lynn E., do you think there are scripts for older women dating younger men? It seems like it's okay for men dating younger women. Is it taboo? Well, first off, are there scripts? I would say that there is probably a cultural script that says women are cougars if they date younger men. So I would say that there's probably some coding or scripts out there. Doesn't mean you have to follow the scripts. I mean, they just happen to be scripts. It doesn't mean, by the way, all of these scripts are garbage. You should write your own script for your life. I should have said that earlier. But, are there scripts? Absolutely. Do you have to follow them? Fuck no. Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate that. Melissa's in the house. I think it's a good idea to ask a potential mate how their childhood was to get a sense of past dramas. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes, yes, yes. You want to get a sense of their past. The problem is, if you like someone, if they had a terrible past, you'll oftentimes give them a lot of grace. Billy, I see you there, but I'm going to answer a few more questions, okay? Laura has a question. Should you tell the man what you expect early on? Meaning, I talked to a guy last night and would have liked and expected a good morning from him. He said he'd call me today. Too much to want? Well, first off, when you create an expectation from someone, Laura, let's ask you this. Why do you need a good morning message from him? Why? Okay. I would really want you to get to the core of why you want that. You've just been talking to a guy. So expecting something from somebody you don't know, I think, is not a healthy way of approaching things. That's just my belief. Now, that's not to say it wouldn't be nice if they message you. Of course it'd be nice. I would want to know, how far apart did the two of you live? Folks, I'm a big proponent, meet as soon as possible. If two people connect, talk about meeting, make that happen. But Jonathan, they live 500 miles away, and we just need to text and text and text and text. And how's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. Tell me about your day. Was your day good? Will you text me in the morning to let me know that you're thinking of me? Yeah. Folks, first off, if you need a good morning text, ask yourself why. Most likely you want to feel like there is an interest there. But just remember, when we have telephone and text relationships, it's very difficult to build the deep roots of trust that happens through social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends. Laura, I know I took that, all different way, but he said he'd call today. Is it too much to want? Focus on why you want it instead of, looking at, is it too much? That would be my invitation for you. Okay. Lena says, do you believe self-insight and reflection are critical? I believe I think the more introspective, self-aware a person is, the happier and content their life is. Absolutely. Jahala says, have you discussed later daters? Yes, I have, and I'll keep discussing it. Tiana says, the bottom line is compatibility. A bad fit for you would be a strong woman. The bottom line is compatibility. A bad fit for you would be a strong woman. Strong women need strong or stronger men. You forget that women are hardwired to need a strong man. It's our nature. You know what? There was a moment in my life where I went to bed wishing I didn't wake up. And during that period of my life, I was depressed like nobody's business. And what's interesting is online dating was my drug of choice, interestingly enough. And through my experiences of online dating, I began choosing a path of teaching women how to recognize broken men. And I became a dating and relationship coach. And through that period of time, I've grown my business to be one of the top relationship coaches in the country. In fact, I have a fairly large YouTube channel and a presence. I'm probably in the top 5% if there was a way to categorize it based on we'll call it revenue, because a lot of coaches out there don't make any money. Okay. Why I'm sharing this with you, Tiana, is I remembered shortly before my son Connor passed away. Again, there's a picture of my son Connor. Both my boys and I were having lunch. And you know what my boys said to me? They said, Dad, we're so proud of you. We're so proud of you that you built something from scratch. You clawed your way out of the pit of despair. You're one of the most courageous, brave men that I've ever, this is what my kids were saying to me. And as I'm sharing this, I'm viscerally remembering this moment that I'm having with them. Did it take a weak man to do what I've done? I don't think weak men could have accomplished what I've accomplished. We gauge strength in a variety of different ways, and no disrespect, but you're judging me. That's okay. You're allowed to judge me. Well, you're allowed to judge what you think women should desire or whatnot. I'm just aware of my weaknesses. You see, I'm not afraid to share them. I'm unafraid to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is probably the most courageous, strongest thing a human being can ever do. So I actually believe I'm one of the strongest men on the planet. I may not be able to handle myself in an airport in Greece. I might become, a scared little cat, scaredy cat. But I think vulnerability. And so for all those strong men that are so strong, I guarantee you their capacity of vulnerability can't even scratch the ant's belly compared to myself. Did I get triggered by this? Folks, abso-fucking-lutely, because I don't like being judged as a simp or a weak person. But I'm unafraid to share with you the vulnerable parts of who I am, because this is what's going to help elevate all of humanity, I believe, because we are on a path for growth, I believe. I think humanity is on a path for emotional maturity, emotional IQ, and that capacity to be vulnerable, authentic, and transparent with human beings. And yes, I'm triggered like nobody's business by your comment. I'm going to own that shit. It's because, you know what? My two boys look at me as the strongest man on the planet. My son who passed away, I hope in heaven he still thinks that way. In fact, the last time I physically saw him, or the second to last time, he expressed how much gratitude he had for me to be a father who always did his best to spend as much time with him as possible. That to me is strength. So when we judge strong women and strong men, listen, I'm here to say, I don't care what anyone else thinks, but I'm unafraid to share my truth. And I think that's the strongest thing on the planet. Ba-dum-bump. All right, I just need to vent. I need to get that out. I see Billy Holt nodding her head. Billy, I'll get to you in a moment, okay? Melissa says, what makes someone weak is being unable to express their feelings. Oh, yeah, there are a lot of strong men and strong women, but they're terrible at expressing their feelings because they don't even know how to identify their feelings. It takes strength to do what I said. Lynn says, that was quite impressive. Thank you so much. Melissa says, vulnerability doesn't make you weak. Elizabeth says, always excellent topic and tips. Thank you so much. All right, Billy Holt is in the house. What do you got for us?
I just want to stop by and say thank you.
You're welcome.
And I like listening to you, and that I think you're making a dent in the problem of like societal relationships. I think you're making a dent in there because there's that
Thanks.
word of mouth kind of thing. And vulnerability is definitely needed. It's
Yeah.
needed. And like you said, communication is what it's all about. Refusing to communicate is like, poor potty training. You got
Whoa,
to
whoa, 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 whoa. Say that again. Refusing to communicate is poor potty training. So,
is like poor potty training,
our parent, okay, so let's unpack that for a second. Because here's the challenge. Most of us were raised with parents who had no fucking clue what they were doing. Okay. No disrespect to our parents. I had no fucking clue what I was doing when I was raising my two boys. Okay. So I didn't teach them how to be effective communicators. I didn't teach them self-love. I didn't teach them anything. And but refusing to communicate sounds like an intentional act versus they're incompetent. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't mean I mean, I think this is a competency thing. And by the way, you women are no fucking picnics at this shit either. No disrespect. You guys are such in a fucking fantasy. No disrespect. I am. Well, if I'm disrespecting someone, so be it. But you know what? You guys are no better at this shit than you think you are. Okay. Because you're just as bad as in men. Men tend to just be silent and women just tend to vomit. So the difference is vomiting versus silence. That's the way I view it.
Silent vomiting. Silent vomiting.
By the way, Tian says, you be you. It wasn't meant to be judgmental. It's an opinion. But the thing is, why I want to come back to that comment, Tian, is an opinion is a perception. And then all of a sudden that perception becomes someone's reality. And I'm not disagreeing that that perception has validity, but it's a surface-based perception. You see, that's why dating is about getting to the truth of a human being. It's about getting to the truth of who this person is. And so when we have these quick assessments or judgment, and by the way, it is to some degree, it's an opinion, but it's still a judgment to some degree. We make quick judgments. We make quick assertions about people. So I'm just addressing that. And Tian, I know I went into a rant because you triggered me, and I'm just going to own that shit. Okay. But, and by the way, Billy Holt, thanks for holding space while I'm sharing this. You know, and to some degree, oh, by the way, Gigi says, now you're judging all women. Well, okay, let me just say this. Okay, I get it. I'm judging men and women alike. I think men and women are just bad at this process of human pair bonding. I think we're just bad at it. Coming back to the potting training. I'm judging to some degree, but I think men and women alike are just bad at it. I just think women do it a certain way and men do it a different way. Anyway, what do you have to say?
Yeah, Jonathan, if people are judging you, like when you go to judge someone, there's like a process for judging. You don't just spit out what your judgment is. You have to reflect on yourself. And your judgment has to be a quality judgment. Otherwise, you're just spitting out stuff. You're just making stuff up and spitting it out. So
well, I think it's human nature. I apologize, but I think it's just human nature to judge. You know, the thing is, when I'm judging, there's a difference between judging an individual specifically versus judging an entire population. Okay. And again, I say most women are this way and most men are this way. So I don't say the entire population, but I am saying what I've observed is this, okay? But when we judge an individual, oftentimes we are perceiving that person to be less than, okay? Less than. That's what that judgment is. Or I'm better than them is oftentimes what judgment is. It's a reflection of them being less than. And here's the thing, we all have equal value. I don't care if it's the meanest person on the planet or the holiest person on the planet. We all have value. That's the way I perceive life to be, is we all have value. But the minute we judge someone, we say that their value is less than. So that's what I'm reacting to.
But actually, if that judgment is not a just judgment, it's falling below a good judgment. It's not a good judgment. It's just spitting out. You know, people need to think before they say something, because words are forever. Once you say something, it's out there.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because Gigi said, how about instead of saying you women are fucking bad at this too, you could say we could all use a little improvement in communicating. Okay, folks. My style is intended to be bombastic. My style is meant to be humorous. My style is designed to rile people up, okay? I intentionally say things like this. It's intentional, but you have to look beyond that because most of you who follow me know what's behind what's going on. It's intended to be, it's intended to create friction because I want to shake things up. Okay. I want to actually rile you up so you can go, wait a minute, maybe there's some truth to that. And if there's truth to that for every woman, maybe there's some truth for me. And if I look at my real truth, okay, if I look at my core truth, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. When I say good at communicating as an example, maybe I can improve. Instead of saying we could all use a little bit of improvement, that's like saying, oh, you know what, you deserve a participation award because you showed up. I'm like, fuck that shit. Guys, you follow my work, know that I'm bombastic intentionally.
It's called shock value.
Exactly.
Yes. It's designed. It's the design of your personality, the design of your.
By the way, you know the irony in this?
Personality.
You know the irony in this, Billy?
Yeah.
I am such a different person at home.
Exactly. I was
I
just saying this
rarely
through
curse. I
YouTube. Yeah.
rarely curse. I rarely curse, but I curse a lot on my videos. I'm very introspective. I mean, I spend a lot of time. Philosophy and psychology and human behavior and spirituality are the primary things that get me up in the morning. And so these are the things I think about. Well, listen, I
I
appreciate you
appreciate
coming on and sharing your kindness. Can I give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear
Yes,
hug?
you can. And I
All right.
appreciate you, Jonathan. Just letting you know
Oh,
that.
thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Bye.
Bye now. So, folks, obviously I got a little riled up. And I, you know what, folks, let me just say this for the person, Gigi, let me just say this. Look I appreciate that I could do this a different way. But if I did a different way, it would be actually boring. I rile things up. And by the way, I think men are jackasses, just like I think women are flawed too. I'm here to say, because I believe all of us are fucked up. It's just a matter of degrees. I mean, I genuinely believe that. Now, I said the word fucked up. Oh my God, that's such a judgment. No, it just means we all have issues. We all have issues. And so, anyway, and I'm here to just draw attention to it in a funny, bombastic way. And Gigi also says, so we are bombastic intentionally too. Amen. 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 All right. So before we wrap up today, what questions do you have of me? I did have a date the other day. I'll share with you publicly. It was an interesting date. I'm not going to say it was a love connection, but it was interesting enough where we're going to meet again. I have a lot of uncertainty because I'm not chasing sex. I'm evaluating it from an objective perspective. Could we be compatible with one another? I don't know how she's feeling, but when I meet her again, I'm going to ask her how she's feeling. I think we have to stop playing this romantic, have a good time game and start being more intentional, start sharing who we are on the inside sooner rather than later, because then we get to know the truth of a person. That's what this is all about. Dating is a vetting, fact-finding process to get to the truth of a human being. And that's what I'm encouraging everyone to do going forward. And when I shared the 7 fears men have over 50, I hope it helps you understand that both men and women alike have fears. They're good people. We're just doing the best we can. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery right below. There's links to get the books I recommend, to follow me on social media, and to get my dating vows, all listed below. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love, if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Marilyn and Billy Holt and Gigi and Laura and Tian and Lynn and Ellie and Yo Daji and Jahila and Cheryl and Melissa and Power of Chi and Jahala, Lynn. Everyone, thanks for the love. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful day. Oh wait, Power of Chi says, is it easy for us women to point the finger of blame at men at our dating issues, but if we don't ever look at the 3 fingers pointing back at us, we'll never find true love? Amen. Brown Canetta just says, just got up. Good morning. Goodbye. Elizabeth is in the house. I get you, Jonathan. I agree 100% with you. You are coming from and your messaging. Thank you so much. Elena, thank you, Jonathan. Another great conversation. Libby says, strong is having the character to do the right thing, to be kind in the face of indifference. I love that. Well, I do my best to do that. Boy, I screwed up the other day with my son, and I felt so bad, but I took ownership of what happened. Ellie says, absolutely, it's not personal. It's more for cohort. I agree. Gigi, your content is always valuable, or I would spend hours a week listening. Oh, thank you, Gigi. I appreciate that. Round Canetta says, I hope you all stay well and happy. All right, folks. I appreciate the love. Let's see if there's anything else. Hey, how about a donation to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund? Listen, if 10 of you just donated $5 right now, we'd hit our goal of $50. I'd appreciate some love. I'd appreciate a donation before you wrap up right now. And I'd appreciate that love. Thanks so much. All right. All right. We're going to wrap up. Have a good one. Be well. Bye now. Bye.